Good morning, welcome, bienvenue to the Committee of the Whole meeting for the municipality of the County of Annapolis. We are going to start with roll call. District 1.
District 1, Carrie Ann Parsons Salzman.
District 2, Jesse Hare.
District 3, Dustin Henslow.
District 4, Charles Cranton.
District 5, Lynn Longmire.
District 6, John Walsh.
District 7, Ted Eichenberg.
District 8, Niall Hardy.
District 9, Kit Dodson.
District 10, Brian Buzzigano.
District 11, Diane LeBlanc. Welcome, everybody. We have a presentation at 11 o'clock, so we have to watch our time, and Ms. Kelly will watch me right now. Okay, do we have any disclosure of interest? Seeing none, we'll move along. We have the approval of the agenda, but we have an amendment to the agenda at the moment. So we are going to move 7.8 after the in-camera meeting, because we have extra information to discuss, and then we'll bring it back at after that at 7.8. Everybody has that? Mm-hmm. Okay, do we unanimously approve the agenda as amended?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, we'll start with the approval of the minutes. If we are on page 22. These are the minutes of January the 13th, Committee of the Whole. Are there any comments, corrections, anything to do with these minutes? Seeing none, the minutes are approved as presented. Next, we are moving on to page 25. For correspondence, there's a letter that is presented to us that was written from the town of Annapolis Royal to the Minister, Kim Mashman. We don't do anything with it unless there's any question. No? Okay, we'll receive the letter as is. We'll move along to page 27. We have the appointment of David Wright. We need somebody to put the motion on the floor. Councillor Parsons Salzman.
I move that municipal council appoint David Wright as building official and fire inspector for the municipality of the County of Annapolis.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Nye, Harding. Sorry, Councillor. We have Madame Bent. Would you like to say a few words, Madame Bent?
Of course I do. David started working with us in January of this year and is trained towards being fire inspector and building inspector. So the appointments are a statutory requirement and staff cannot perform their duties unless, of course, they are appointed.
Thank you, Madame Bent. Are there any questions and comments for Madame Bent? Yes, and Councillor Welch.
Does that fill that department for its needs for building inspector and fire inspections?
For the moment?
For the moment.
For the most part?
Okay, any other questions? Okay, seeing none. All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passed. Okay, we're moving on to page 29. It is on the amendment of policy 135 fees. Just a few little things. Well, let's put the motion on the floor. Councillor Welch.
I move that municipal council amend policy 135 fees as circulated 7-day notice.
Thank you very much. And we need a seconder. Councillor Cranton. Madame Paladin, it's your up.
I'm up.
Yes.
Starting to feel familiar now. So this is just a couple of the fees that were overlooked when we were creating the policy. So there's nothing new, they're just being added on.
And they're in, yes, Deputy Warden.
I just have a couple questions. Mostly for clarity, I guess, for everyone. So, on page 32, the change of occupancy classification, that one is now or, well, I guess it wasn't there before, but, so $50 plus $1 for every 1,000. But repairs and all the other ones are $25. Why is this one 50? And also, on the same page, the relocation or location of existing building, why is that one 50 when, we're just wondering the difference.
Sure, those have been in place. This one was actually missed from the policy when we put it through in December. So those fees haven't changed since, say, 2011. So the $50 for the change of use is a change of use fee, and then the renovation portion that's always associated with the change of use is the $1 for every 1,000. And the other question,
Well, no, I just wanted to know why other ones were 25 and this one was 50.
because we're not charging an admin fee, I suspect. Sorry, there's no admin fee for the demolition of the building.
And then, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so if it's just, I'm renovating my home,
Mhm.
and it requires a permit for that, and that's the $25 and then $1 for every cost. But if I'm changing the use, that's the $50 fee, and then the cost for the renovations.
Because there's more work that has to be
Yes,
done there.
absolutely,
Okay.
yeah, because you're changing, perhaps you're going from an industrial use to a retail use, for example. So it would be a change of class of occupancy under the building.
So it's increased because more
It's
work.
not increasing, it's just unfortunately, we overlooked that
Well,
one.
I mean, sorry, not increasing.
Yeah.
It's a higher dollar value because there's more administrative work to be
Absolutely,
done.
yes.
And the other question I had is on page 33, just for clarification. Under dog tags, so there's an impound fee of $35, and then boarding at animal control facility, $20 per dog per day. So does that mean that if my dog is picked up, that I would pay $35 and then $20 per day?
Correct. Quite often, if they reach you within a couple of hours, they don't do anything, but that would be the case normally, yes.
Okay. No, that's it. Thank you.
Just, yes, Councillor Aguilar?
Actually, on that same subject, if I may, just for clarification, so I guess for boarding, it's not, if I just wanted to board my dog for a couple of days, that's not what this is.
No.
This is specifically on an impounding situation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you. Just one clarification on that.
Yeah, we're not boarding facility.
It is at a very cheap rate.
Yeah.
Well, the reason being is because my kids have 3 dogs and they're always boarding them somewhere, right?
So,
Usually at my place. Thank you.
There's your rate.
I know.
I'm glad you asked that question because I was gonna ask them to clarify that. Okay, are there any other questions? And as you can see, the registration fee is $25 and you do it once and your animal is there for life unless he loses, Mr. Houdini loses his dog tag, which I have one of those. Anyway, so, any other questions? Seeing none, thank you. All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passed. Merci, madame et madame. We are on page 35. We have the temporary borrowing refinancing resolution. Okay, the motion, Councillor Parsons Sullivan.
I move that municipal council authorize the submission of a temporary borrowing refinancing resolution, TBR, to the minister in the amount of up to $325,000 for water capital refinancing.
I need a seconder. Councillor Longmire. Okay, are there any questions about this refinancing? Because he's back there waiting to get some questions. He's coming, he's coming. Councillor Connell.
So, when I read this, I read that this was a loan taken out when Bridgetown was a town. So are taxpayers on the hook for this loan now? Or is it the community rate that pays I thought the community rate was to pay all the loans that Bridgetown had taken out before dissolution.
Mr. Wills, do you have a comment on
Now,
that?
this is for the water utility.
Yes.
It would be the water utility users that actually pay for it, It'd be part of the water utility financial statements. It doesn't go on the operating of the Annapolis County. So it wouldn't be the taxpayers of Annapolis County, it would be the taxpayers of the water users that are using the Bridgetown water utility.
No, and I asked that question because it said it was done when Bridgetown was a town, so.
And that's more or less, so anyone that isn't familiar, because this goes back 15 years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So 15 years ago, the Municipal Finance Corporation existed. And on the open market, the longest term that they could borrow money for was 15 years. The town planned to borrow for 20 years, which means in year 15 you have a balloon payment. And your choice is either pay the $390,000 and deplete your reserves, or continue for the additional 5 years at $65,000 a year. So it's more of a cash flow issue than anything else. So it just kind of, if anyone isn't aware of where it came from, it basically came from the former town.
Okay. That's right.
We just didn't ask
You okay?
for provincial government for enough money.
That's right. Any other comments or questions for Mr. Will? Seeing none? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passed. Okay, we are on to page 38. We have a report. And Madame Emma Waterman is going to present to us today. I'll put it right to you, Madame.
Okay, so as presented to the audit committee on January 26th, briefly we discussed that the revenues are still slated quite higher than what we had originally budgeted for the transfer tax. We're sitting at 1.5 million when we budgeted for total year spent, or total year to receive at 1.5. Again, as presented in Q2, the municipal financial capacity grant was missed, so the town foundation grant for 50,000 is also a variance in there. And for the expense, we received and paid the RCMP bill on time during the quarter, and so it's not showing on the variance report. There are some variances with the Public Works Division, and we're working on the procedures to be able to capture them properly in the new fiscal year. And aside from that, we have a slight over budget position for revenues and a slight under budget position for expenses.
Excellent. Merci, Madame. Are there any questions or comments? And I hope you had your binoculars like I did. Okay?
Accessibility.
Next time, make it bigger for
The tender eyes.
tender eyes. Oh, I like that one. Thank you. Yes, Councillor Agenbar.
Yes, on page, I read this like last week, so I'm just refreshing myself as we go along. On page 41, the under clerk, the amount of $296,326. Now, does that include a whole department, or what actually makes up that amount?
The clerk?
Under the headline clerk,
So,
under the budget, 296,326.
so under clerk, we have several. So there's wages that are captured in that. We have, sorry, let me read real quickly. We have travel conferences, so it's an entire department.
It's,
So,
that's my question, it's not one individual,
no, it's.
it's that whole department.
Exactly.
Okay, well, that clarifies that. I also had a question on page 42. Okay, this is regarding the Long Lake fire expense. My question, the amount was 205,000.
Are you, under which heading are you?
Page 42.
What heading?
I'm looking.
Protective services?
Remo.
Remove, okay?
So my question is, are we gonna be able to recover some of that money? Is that part of the recovery expense that we put into the federal government?
So
Will
the
any of that
intent,
money be coming back?
so the, well, when it's gonna be coming back to you, I don't know, I don't keep record. It was over 5 years for them to get their money for their, I think it was the flood that they had.
Yeah.
So the intent is at the end of the year, we will be setting up a receivable for the full amount.
Right.
But we will also, I'll also go through and see if there's any that might be, I'll say questionable,
Right.
and set up something in the reserve, because the odds of us getting 100% of what we asked for are pretty slim.
Well, that was my question. Is it gonna be a receivable?
It will be set up as a receivable at the year end, so that when you see the Q4 variance analysis, it'll be included in that, because we're still paying some charges. So there's no point setting it up till we know at that point.
Agreed. Thank you. That answers my query.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Warden?
There's one question I guess I forgot to ask at the audit committee. So under Remo as well, same page, page 42, the intern position was not budgeted, but we hired the intern.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I just want to know from my memory, did we hire that person with the understanding that we had a surplus in the wage portfolio, and that's why we, I suppose no one here, no, never mind. No, as I was saying it, I remembered that no one was here then. Okay. All right. Answer my own question as I went through. Maybe that's why I didn't ask about it.
We can certainly look into it.
Okay. I'll move on to Jennifer Crenton.
Thank you. Having attended the audit committee meeting, I just wanted to share with the rest of the council and people listening that staff gave a very detailed report, and just like Emma just mentioned, some of the variances in public works. Most of them are allocation variances, so it's more of the accounting treatments of being initially recorded in one area but needs to be allocated out, so it's not necessarily, overall they appear to be on track, so it's more of a bookkeeping, accounting, allocation variance than a money spent variance. So, and then I also was glad that the director, his explanation of his accounting treatment of the wildfire and setting up the receivable, and I was, you know, it's very responsible to also include an allowance for the doubtful, because as he just indicated, there's potential that we won't get 100% of it. So it's good by having that allowance for, and he's going to go, he explained his procedure very well, so I won't repeat it all, but it'll be an estimate, but essentially what it does is it puts the financial burden of anything that's not covered in the right fiscal year, so that you have a rough idea at the end of this year what we're doing. So there's a couple observations of the audit committee meeting, but it's all very good.
Okay. Thank you very much, Councilor. Councilor Hara?
Just if I can get my memory refreshed on the $100,000 variance for King's Transit.
So we are on page
42 under transit, under transportation services.
Transportation, transit, yes. The question is?
Where that $100,000 variance come from?
The 99,000?
Yeah,
Okay.
the higher transit invoice expense.
I'm gonna take a guess, because I don't know for sure, but I know that the billing that comes from King's Transit is not a quarter, it fluctuates. And it could be that what we have in here, we may have more, thinking we were gonna be billed more for a particular quarter that we weren't. That's an educated guess, because I don't know for that for a fact, I do know the bill does fluctuate. It's not a flat rate.
Would it have anything to do with, I'm just trying to think of the timeline of when we rejoined the transit authority. Would it have anything to do with what bill we might have left over from when we were contracting their services?
I can't answer that, sorry. I'd have to go back and look at it to see, because I really don't know. I just know the billing's not flat.
It would be nice if I could get an explanation for the 100,000,
We
a
can
more
look at it.
definitive explanation.
Okay, that will come
I
back.
knew the answer, I'd tell you.
Deputy Warden?
Thank you. For, if I can remember correctly, now, maybe Fuzzy could correct me if I'm wrong, but there was something to do with a wage increase for bus drivers and a fuel surcharge. Or maybe I got that mixed up with Valley Waste. But for some reason, that's what's popping in my head about that
The 99K.
99K. But I can't remember, that's just two things that I thought might be a good thing to look at. But I just wanted to say thank you. This is our second various report that we've had. And even though I've only been on council a short time, it's only the second one I've ever had. And I know for councilors who've been here longer than that. So it's nice to see that the finance department is jumping forward. And I know I'm looking forward to budget season, even though it's gonna mean some difficult conversations. Just like everyone else is managing a home budget, ours is just that on steroids, so. You know, everyone has to, even at home, look at the wants versus needs, so. Thank you again.
Thank you. Any other, Councillor Crampton?
Since they're likely going back to look at some stuff related to transit to answer the previous question, I would be interested, I feel that previous CEO addressed it prior to the contract negotiations, but it would be worth looking to see if there was any implication related to one of the funding partners leaving the service. And just double checking that.
That wouldn't come into effect until next, though.
I believe there was one that left this year.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Connell, did you have a hand up?
Yes, under Ravenhaven on page 43, or under environmental development services, there's no explanation about the 65 for the sports hub.
So the sports hub in particular, or Ravenhaven?
Yeah, no, sports hub, there's just no explanation what the 65, 676 is what we paid out. And I guess what I'm looking for is, we were never told what it cost to repair the sports hub when the damage was done at the sports hub. We are never explained on any cost, who paid that. I'm assuming we paid it.
We can give you that answer. I mean, again, you know that we provide them a grant, so
Yeah.
we can find out what the difference was.
Yeah, because I think the grant for that sports hub is 50,000.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is correct. I see on here a cost of $15,000 for operational material, but I can double check and make sure that it was to do with the repairs,
Okay,
which would explain, it would make up the entire $65,000.
okay. No, that's,
Okay. Is that it, Councillor?
Yep.
All right. Anyone else? Yes,
Thank
Councillor
you.
Longmire?
So just as our deputy warden had said, you know, this quarterly report really does help us reflect back, of course, on some pretty important passage of time with that wildfire. And so, you know, not that all work would have been stalled, of course, work has to proceed on as usual, but there was a lot more happening at the time in which this quarterly report was being pulled together. So, you know, the hard work that went into this and the improving reporting accuracy, you know, this is what proves for us as council and shows, you know, gives us that opportunity for public trust. So, well done. Having this as our second, it just does give us something to feel really, really great about. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Just
Councilor Aguilar?
one quick question on these variances, adjustments that you folks are gonna be looking at. When will we see those? Like, how will we see them?
For the public works in particular.
Well, any of these variances, explanations that you people are gonna look into will come to us via email or meeting?
My intention is to send it via email,
Okay.
if that's okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
sure. Just wanted to know when and where we're gonna see these numbers.
Give me a little bit of time to
Yeah.
review this.
I agree, yeah, not a
By
problem.
the end of the week.
Question was more how rather than when.
Yeah,
Thank
if email works, and if there's further follow-up questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you.
Anyone else? You're up to vote. Okay, so thank you for the report, so we accept the report. And merci madame, merci monsieur. We don't have to put a motion on the floor at all. Here we go, we are now on page 44. It is the email. We have a motion to be read. Councilor Longmire.
I move that municipal council approve the memorandum of agreement between King's Transit Authority and the Annapolis Regional Emergency Management Organization, Annapolis REMO, as recommended by the Annapolis REMO Advisory Committee.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Deputy Warden. Okay. Are there any questions, Deputy Warden? And then we'll go with Aguilar. And then we'll go with Air. And we'll see after that.
All I want to say is I'm glad that we're putting an official MOU. I know we've had an agreement, verbal agreement, but it just, this past fire season, we saw the fact that we could have had access to this, and the offer happened right away. And knowing that it's going to be official that we have access to that resource is going to make life so much easier. In fact, it was nice that we didn't have to use it, but there was multiple times that we almost had to use it. So I think the fact that we're actually moving forward and making MOUs for things that we actually need and not relying on handshake agreements or verbal agreements puts us in a better place for municipality.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Aguilar?
Yes, I agree completely. Along that same issue, at the time when we were in the trenches doing our thing, and my involvement with the Annapolis the transit, what's it called? Tri-County Transit.
TCT.
That was also a discussion we had with them. Is there anything maybe looking towards an MOA with them as well in the same context? Because we were at that point, we were looking to see verbally if they would help out in those, and if that situation arose. Of course, they agreed to that to some extent, but I'm wondering if there's some discussion with them about that.
Okay, thank you.
Or should there be?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll look into that.
I mean, not that I know of, I'm not sure if it's been discussed at the REMO Advisory Committee, but it's certainly something that REMO Advisory Committee could have a discussion with.
Just bringing it back into the report.
Okay. Councilor Hare?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea to have this memorandum of understanding. I guess my only comment would be is if we do happen to utilize it, we're sure that it will be utilized well. I just think in regards to when we had shelters set up and they were not being used or hardly being used, it'd be quite an expense to have a bus going into. So, that's it.
Thank you. But we have to be prepared. Deputy Warden?
Just one comment on that the use of these buses, usually the intent is for evacuation,
Yeah.
not for, but I do see your point, we did
Yes.
have some issues, but I just don't want people that were listening to think that if we had an emergency, that we'd be altering bus routes to then, things like that. This is meant for moving people. And the
Yes.
fact that we have access to this many seats and we can move people. But I do agree that, they have to make sure that we're on top of it.
Mhm. Any other, anyone else? Seeing no one, not even at the last second. All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passed. The next one would be on page 63. Where that's moved at the end.
No,
Oh, where am I at? Page 50, sorry. Okay, page 50. The Tidal Transit Authority, and that is the new name for our King's Transit. We have a motion. Would somebody put the motion on the floor? Councillor Agumbaro?
Yes, I move that the municipal council direct the warden to support the Tidal Transit Authority budget at the upcoming interim municipal services board meeting.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Welsh? Any questions or comment? Councillor Welsh?
Just wondering if we're gonna see any service changes or costs anticipated for the coming year. I know a couple months ago we discussed the possibility of reviewing some of the routes. I'm just wondering where that stands right now.
Would you like to
Sure.
clarify that one?
So thank you for the question, Councillor. So when this budget initially came forward from Tidal Transit, it'll take me a while to get that name changed in my head. The budget initially was, I'll say, significantly higher than what you see in front of you. And so there's a series of meetings with all the CAOs and the manager of Tidal Transit and the finance person. And one of the initial things that was in there that cost quite a bit of money was changes to routes. And again, as we had to refine the budget so that we could get to a point where municipalities would be at least a little bit more comfortable with some of the changes, some of those things came off. Now, it's certainly things that need to be looked at in the future. So the intent is that this year, it's really focused on trying to get things operating very efficiently. The big cost, of course, is some new buses that need to be replaced. The asset management has not been great for that organization for a long time. So it's really about trying to get stabilized and very efficient at what everybody's paying them to do.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Connell?
I was kind of disappointed when I seen the name change, because working for the government for all the years I worked there, every time and then as many times as Department of Transportation changed their name, costs the taxpayers thousands and thousands of dollars. And Tidal Transit Authority can't tell me any different. By the time they redo all their names on their buses, redo all their branding issues, money thrown out the window. I was very disappointed when I saw the fact is that all of a sudden they're rebranding because of the reasons they put in there was, they felt they needed a new lift. Well, to me, seeing the money wasted over the years working for transportation, I was not happy camper with that. That is a waste, without a waste of taxpayers' money.
Councillor Hare?
how many buses currently does Tidal Transit operate? I'm just looking, I see there's 7 hybrid buses, I see it's an idea at one point of possibly electric, so I'm glad it's now, at least, now it's down to hybrid. And I'm just curious how many, if I missed it in here somewhere, I'm just curious on how much of their fleet they're replacing with these 7 buses.
So I'll double check on that, Counselor, because I don't know the answer off the top of my head. But generally, the entire fleet will be replaced within the next couple of years, 2 or 3 years.
So that was the next 2 or 3 years that would show on this
Yep.
capital
Yeah,
purchase.
it's all in that budget.
So we had approximately 7 buses then.
I believe, and again, I'll double check. I believe they have 8 or 9, and the intent is to add 1 or 2, because that's part of their issue right now, is that if a bus goes down, they have issues, they can't replace it quickly and that type of thing, so, but I will double check, because I don't wanna speak without knowing the answer.
I just see this capital budget's 5 years, and if that was the case, I would have liked to seen it in this budget.
But it is in the budget, it is in the capital budget.
Under the 7 buses.
Yep.
Capital 5-year forecast.
So you'll see in 27, 28,
Yeah.
there's a huge number there of almost $8 million. So that's the big chunk of it. Obviously, there's a little bit this year and then more the following year, and then the third year is kind of the last part of that.
So do we know if, I know a hybrid bus is a lot different than a very conventional diesel bus, and I see that they're hiring mechanics and have already mechanics on hand. Has it been budgeted into the fact that the difference, it's quite a difference in maintaining the buses, and it's quite a difference in the people that we need to have to maintain a hybrid bus? So it's apples to oranges, and was that factored in the budget?
Through you, Warden, it certainly was, there was a lot of discussion about the mechanics and what they'll be able to do or not do. What you would see too is if you follow the budget through, you'll actually see a reduction in some of the cost of maintenance, because with new buses, their maintenance will go down. So on the operations side, I think it's after 2 or 3 years, you'll see the operations, at least that part of it is reduced.
I guess to let it off just by saying, always stickler on transit. Now, this expense is this $40,000 per year increase in expense for capital. I guess if we're gonna have transit, it's only $40,000 a year. Okay, I don't wanna see it never ending, like 5 years go down the line and all of a sudden it's, oh, we need to have a new this, or a new that. I was always brought up to run things till the wheels fall off. I know that's not necessarily economical, but,
Or a good idea for transit.
I'm glad you said it.
So, I guess I can support this for now, but going forwards, I wanna see an end in sight of capital, I should say, or I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Thank you. I have, Councilor Longmire, Deputy Warden, and Councilor Cranston, in that order. Okay,
All right, thank you.
Councilor?
Thank you. So, yeah, the pressure is coming from capital. So my greatest question would be, I think, knowing that we're looking at replacing with hybrid, and we know Annapolis County being so geographically stretched, there's gonna be so many more conversations around how that's all gonna work out. can we expect more reporting to us so that we know what's actually happening and conversations and it's being entertained? Because as we embark upon the replacement, the cost is going to be exorbitant. And, you know, I don't know all that goes into having to have the proper shelters or the setups for the hybrid setup. So I would like to think that we will have more frequent reporting to council so that we can be, you know, up to date on all that spending, right? And the grants and any kind of conversations that are coming about from that. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Deputy Warden?
Thank you. I do note on page 60, under the capital, 5-year capital project, the forecast, that it also lists, I guess the way it's in there is 2 or 3 diesel bus replacements in 28, 29. So, you know, they're looking at having a fleet of 10, I guess, the way I'm looking at it. And it is interesting that they're looking at replacing with some diesel buses. At least they're gonna make their fleet diverse, I guess. But also these hybrid buses are not gas hybrids, they're diesel electric. So at least the mechanics that work on diesel, a lot of them are gonna be going to the gap bridge training that they're having now. But the other thing I had is, I don't think we'll ever see no capital being spent. And the fact that we have a plan makes me happier. Because if we're investing with life cycle management and doing it properly, this also includes us, the municipality. It's cheaper in the long run than waiting for things to blow up. So the fact that we now have a new administrator that's looking after the transit system, that is really taking a deep dive in operating this authority. Yes, I believe we can all agree that this is a lot of money. We spend a lot of money on it. And it's the taxpayers' money, and, you know, we all have our different opinions on it. But I do think that having a transit system in some capacity is necessity in today. You know, not all of us can afford to have cars and so on, but I also, at the same time, we're a rural municipality and not everyone is adjacent to the bus routes. But in most times, if people utilize those services, move closer to those bus routes for that reason. But the other thing is, I would like to get some more information as we go through this on this Cornwallis Park transfer station.
Okay.
So, it seemed like, so it's something happening in our municipality, but we really didn't have a whole lot of input or influence or even working with it. And it's a lot of money being spent in that area, which I have no issues when people want to spend money in Annapolis County. I think it's great. But it's a lot of money that the municipalities are all splitting to not really have a discussion on where and what's going to be used for. The fact that my understanding is that it's going to be used, we're going to have offices there for the bus drivers to take their breaks. There's an idea of potentially having a cafe there. Cornwallis isn't even in the central of our municipality. There's more than one transfer station within our municipality. Because Bridgetown is also a transfer location. And then Cornwallis, of course, is the big one for the Weymouth bus. But I'm still a little disappointed that we really didn't have much say in, or at least ask an opinion on that. So I would like to get some more information on that transfer station and what is their actual plan for it, and when do they plan to actually open it? Because right now it's on pause. They started working on it, made an agreement, there was a whole social media and write-up in the newspaper about it, but then it's just, the comms dropped down. So it's hard to answer people's questions when constituents ask what's going on if we truly don't know. That's all I have to say.
Do you want to comment on that? or-
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you. So a few things that you mentioned, Deputy Warden. So, first of all, the diesel bus discussion. So this was obviously one of the things that are driving the cost of capital. Electric buses are more expensive than hybrid buses, which are more expensive than diesel buses. But some of the government funding that they were receiving, the ICIP, there needs to be that element of greening. So if you went with diesel buses, you wouldn't get that funding, and that's a big, big number. So it makes sense to go with the hybrid in that cases. The further down, and this is, when you talk about a capital plan, you see that all of the municipalities total were only contributing $80,000 a year for capital. So a bus that costs over $1 million, and they do, you can see how $80,000 a year won't pay for that bus over a 10-year replacement schedule.
Yeah.
One bus, and when you have a fleet of 8, obviously we've got big issues as to what is in the capital, because there's really no reserve. So that was one of the big discussions that we had this year, was how do we get to a level that allows for a good capital replacement plan? And I'll tell you, the number was a lot larger than 320 that they brought to us. And we talked about what we can do to make that more reasonable, so that, again, municipalities don't have to eat that cost all at once. Now, to Deputy Warden's point, it's good that there's a plan in place. There'll definitely be more costs. I mean, if you work this all out, after 10 years, you buy a bus for 10 years or whatever their replacement schedule is, you gotta look at replacing it again. So, with that in mind, you need to build up that reserve so that there's funds there, to have it done at the time. Deputy Warden, you mentioned about bus routes, and I just wanna highlight that the funding formula for tidal transit, it's based on how close you are to the bus route. So just for the public to be aware that, our funding that we contribute as a municipality is based on that formula that's close to the bus route. It's 1 kilometer from the bus route. So that, that's very different than if we had to pay based on the entire county, because we don't have service through the entire county. And one thing I just wanted to mention from a couple of comments is that the general manager, Meg Hodges from Tidal, is more than willing to come talk whenever. So I'm not sure when the last time you had a presentation from Transit was, but pre-her, it's on pre-me. So absolutely, she'll come whenever you want her to, I would suggest, as long as we can schedule it. So I'll ask Meg to come in and have a discussion about the entire plan and what's going on. Which, brings up the Cornwallis transfer station a little bit, but again, it's their organization, it is their decision. We are a partner in that, and they've made that, which when she comes, she can talk to you about all the reasons why they're looking at that particular area. So I'll just leave it at that.
And just to add to that was the area where the buses meet from Digby and switch. It was always there, so they would like to obviously leave it there. That's just a little tidbit. Who am I on? I am on to Councillor Cotw.
Okay, thank you. I have 2 points, and they've both been touched on. One is, and I know you probably have to look into both, is it would be nice at some point in time to get a costing of the rebranding, as Councillor Connell mentioned, is going to be. They are not cheap, and they are quite costly. I do realize at this point it's likely moving ahead, but just a matter of interest, it would be good to know at some point what that costing is. And second is also on the transfer station in Cornwallis Park. And I first just want to say, as I support the transit system, I also haven't lived in that area for a lengthy time. I do know that is an integral part of the transit system, so as the warden just said, it's always been there. We need to think of it as logistically, it's on the transit system as a whole, so it may not be in the center of Annapolis County, but it is at the right location of where it should be for the system as a whole. So the investment, it makes sense to do it there, in my opinion, and I do support the investment. My concern would be, and this may be something you need to clarify or ask when they come, is when we're talking about the capital investment, is the transit authority purchasing a property to make this, to build this, or are we making an investment in a private developer's property?
I can speak to that briefly, Warren, and so again, I know that the deputy warden said that, you know, right now that there's still a lot of development going on there, but there would be a lease agreement in place, which, you know, would be signed for a 20-year agreement. And again, that would be between Tidal Transit and the owner of the property.
Okay, thank you.
All right. We'll move on. Councillor Jagenbar. Oh, right here.
I'm here. No, actually, I have some observations I'd just like to make here. So number one, I'm glad we're going to the hybrid versus the electric only. Because we know that with electric only, particularly with our long rural routes that we have, they're not that efficient in terms of recharging and utilization. So that's good. I'm also glad that we're acquiring an extra bus to cover when the bus goes down, i.e. the route that we lost, and of course that translated into lost revenue and also ridership and confidence in the program, which I think might have something to do with the rebranding. So that's a good observation as well. I just wanted to make, and I'm glad to see that we're looking at improving the image in that respect, and maybe that'll help with increasing ridership as well. So that extra bus is a good thing to have, because when one goes down, it's gone. So that leaves a lot of people stranded. So I'm glad they're looking ahead in that respect. So just generally, I'm pretty happy with the route that this is going, and I'm glad to see that they're looking forward to increased ridership, hopefully as a result. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Right. Councillor Welsh.
If I may.
Yes, you right under, before I said something. There you go.
Just add a little bit to the Cornwallis transfer station that CAO has already alluded to, and Councillor Cran. One of the reasons there's a holdup with that is there's a zoning concern, and Linda Benton could probably speak to that too. I think that there's a public meeting coming up, I think on the 25th, for rezoning that particular area. So that's one of the reasons it's been kind of held up. We're just going through the process.
Anybody else? Nobody else? All right, let's go to the motion. All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passed. All right, we are moving on to page 63. We have a motion. Okay, Councillor Welsh.
I move that municipal council receive the Valley Waste budget approved as information.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Harding. I got it right. Are there any questions or comments about this? This is totally different from the title. Yes, Councillor Connell.
So this is just approval for information, so do we get to discuss or to go any further, make a motion to accept her?
So through you, Warden, to the councillor, so because of the new IMSA system, the way these things happen is different, so it used to be that every council needed to have approval from the council. Now that there's a separate board, it's the board members, so your representative as the warden votes on that. But the timing of Valley Waste, I personally thought it would take another month before it came to their board meeting, so basically the board has voted to approve. Now, the plus is that it's actually less than it was for Valley Waste, but it is your board representative that makes that vote, the same as the tile transit.
So it's done,
It's approved, yeah, the budget's approved.
again, sitting in this chair for many years, and I'm not afraid to say, they've been castle builders. And that's, I always call them that, I always call them right to their face. They're castle builders. They put in here, they bought a new grinder to grind what amount of wood we have at 2 facilities. And that grinder sits there for probably 85% of the year, sitting idle. Equipment will wear out faster with bearings and rollers and stuff like that, sitting idle. And I know that they had enough gumption to call the contractor they had crushing and grinding their wood and ask them if they could sell the grinding to them. And they were told no. So I would like to see where they're gonna sell their grindings. The savings is not gonna be what they're saying, cause that grinder wasn't cheap. Cause I can get a price of a grinder very quickly. And for what amount of time our 2 divisions use to grind up once a year, they usually grind the wood at Lawrencetown. And the contractor that was grinding it sold their material for them. So now all of a sudden, our authority owns their own grinder, they own their own excavator to load it, which is gonna sit there another 85% of the year idle, wearing out because the bearings and stuff will seize. I just, like I said, I've found Valley Waste right from day one to be very much of castle builders, and they just keep, the trend keeps going. It's costing the taxpayers for somebody having a big dream. And I know equipment. I've complained in this council chambers before, seeing brand new loaders driving around with the fenders beat off of them. I go into the site, I see garbage piled on the radiators and on the back of the loaders. They don't even get off, take them off. So the taxpayers are paying for all this mismanagement of equipment. And I've seen it time and time again. I'm not very pleased with going forward with their imaginary buildings of equipment and liability. I mean, now we take on the liability of grinding that material and someone being around that grinder. And like, it's not all, they're talking $30,000 in here or something that was, they were gonna get out of material. I wasn't,
What page are we on?
decrease of 30,700 due to the self-processing of material.
Let's look on page 82.
That's on 72, that is.
Yeah, that's page 82.
I just,
72.
72. I was just disappointed when I hear him keep buying stuff and doing stuff on very little return.
Okay.
And secondly, it says in here that regulatory requirements on page 69, it goes back to say in 2023, the Nova Scotia Environment and Climate Change legislative water monitoring requirements from all transfer stations and construction debris sites. I was at the village meeting last night in Lawrencetown, and the Department of Environment has told the village, do not send no more reports on your water and sewer. When we want them, we'll give you heads up. So this isn't gonna be a requirement, they're not gonna have to send in their monthly things, no different than the village would have to. Environment's doing less and less and less. And it's likely because they're gonna be cut less and less and less.
Yeah, if you don't mind, Warden, through you to the counselor, so first of all, environment, I mean, we can't speak to that, that's, they're gonna determine what they're gonna do. I will speak to the wood chips a little bit, because that was a discussion that happened at the board meeting, and something that they identified as a new source of revenue. So if you look on page 82, you'll see that their sale of wood chips is $157,000 a year. So it's not only covering their costs, it's making them money.
Well, if they're gonna run an excavator and buy a new excavator and buy a new grinder, they're not gonna show a profit for years to come. They got a guy that's dreaming at the end of that knows very little about equipment, because, like I said, those two items alone are gonna sit at those facilities unused more than they're gonna be used. And that's my concern is that when I see two loaders sitting at the Norristown site on a daily basis, you know, I understand that's the same as the buses. It's nice to have a spare, but when the taxpayers are paying $300,000 for a new loader to sit there, or 200-some thousand, and a brand new spare sitting there, and the way the transportation load is from Kemple to Lawrencetown, within an hour they could have a spare loader that was sitting in Kemple brought to Lawrencetown. Like, I just find they're very much of a castle building organization. And I see that, I see it time and time again. When I go in Lawrencetown site, I usually see 2 or 3 half-tons sitting there. I think the most used piece of equipment they have is their little Kubota four-wheeler, because they run around the whole facility with that. They plow the facility with it. I just find that they seem like they never stop buying. And when you buy something, you gotta replace it down the road, so that's my concern.
Thank you. Did you want me to put your name down, Councilor Harding? I'll put your name down, Deputy Warden. But we're going to stop and take a pause right now. And we're going to go to our presentation. Our presenters are here. So we're over at our time. Don't worry about that. I took the time, obviously, we did. So if you would like to come on up here, do you need some time to set up? If so, we'll take. Ben will guide you.
Maybe a 5-minute break.
We might as well take, yes, a 5-minute break, Ben? Do you think we need a 5-minute break? Yes? Okay, I'll pause this. Ben?
Yeah, I gotta run back to the closet myself.
We are now ready for the presentations that we have. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Good morning, everyone. We are Sherry McNeil, myself. I'm the project lead for aquatic programs, and Houston Grimshaw-Surratt, who is the project lead for terrestrial programs. We're with the Nova Scotia Invasive Species Council, and we want to say thank you very much for extending the invitation for us to attend today and provide some information on what we do and what our goals are as an organization. So the Nova Scotia Invasive Species Council is a provincial chapter of Invasives Canada, which is a national organization. And we are a nonprofit organization focused on raising awareness and promoting a coordinated response to the many threats of invasive species in our small province. So our focus, of course, is preventing invasive species, their introduction, and reducing the spread. Of course, once they're here, they do tend to spread around. We work in both terrestrial species and aquatic, and we do a lot of education and outreach, which includes informing people about what invasive species are, how to identify them, how to control them, reporting and mapping, so if you see an invasive species, what to do, who to talk to. And of course, we do some removals of key species across the province as well.
Alrighty, so I'm going to jump in and discuss what is invasive species, as there's a few different definitions that are sometimes used when referring to invasive species. So it's any organism that is non-native to the area, so it's brought in from elsewhere, has some ability to spread within the area in that ecosystem and causes harm. So it has to have that negative aspect, whether it be to economies, human health, or ecosystems. And so, there we go. And so invasive species have significant impacts. Invasive species are recognized as one of the top 5 contributors to global biodiversity loss, and threaten many of our species at risk, including black ash, Blanding's turtle, Atlantic salmon, as well as brook floaters. Those are just a few examples of some species at risk here in Nova Scotia that are threatened by invasive species. And they do this by competing with native species for resources. Invasive species typically really good at what they do. They're really competitive. They get in there and they can outcompete native species. They can also increase predation. For example, smallmouth bass, chain pickerel are really aggressive fish species that can change up the whole lake system. They can also degrade habitat quality, such as increasing erosion along riverbanks and so on. They can also introduce diseases into wildlife as well. So they obviously have quite significant ecological impacts, but they also have significant economical impacts as well. It's estimated since 1970 the total global cost is $2.168 trillion. This, though, is quite a conservative number, likely to be much more than this. And the total Canadian cost is $35 billion. And and other studies show about $42.3 billion each year, with this value doubling every 6 years. So this is an increasing issue that's becoming more and more of an issue with the movement, the global movement that's happening, introducing new invasive species. And those are just 2 examples there of some invasive species that can have quite significant economic costs. Zebra mussels, which is a freshwater invasive mussel, can clog up pipe systems, whether it be water treatment, hydro dams, causing significant costs there to clean them out. And Japanese knotweed is able to push up 3 8 centimeters of asphalt and damage concrete foundations. The invasive species are often harmful to human health. There's a few different examples, but giant hogweed or wild parsnip, these species have the sap that contains toxins, and if you get the sap on your skin, then exposed to sunlight can cause significant burns. And this image here is what we call an invasion curve. And why this is really important to show is that it shows basically what happens after an invasive species has been introduced. So in the bottom left-hand corner there, that's where an invasive species has been introduced. Then over time, As it spreads, area infested goes up. But also, that also goes with this is those control costs. As the more area that the invasive species is taking over, increase the cost of controlling it. And so, usually it takes a bit of time before it's detected. If an invasive species is detected early, eradication is more feasible, cheaper to control it, it's much more manageable. But if you get to the higher levels there, eradication becomes much more expensive, and you're only going to be looking at local management level. So an example would be Japanese knotweed here in Nova Scotia. It's sitting quite high on that curve. It's been here a while. It's going to be consistent. And so what's important to note with this slide is that preventing the introduction of invasive species is by far the most economically cheaper way to deal with this issue.
So, as a organization that approaches people, we have a lot of different behavioral change programs that we can talk to people about. And these are helpful for us to reduce the spread and introduction of invasive species. So these are some of the behavioral change programs that help inform behaviors of people who are concerned about invasive species introduction and spread. So Clean, Drain, Dry is primarily a program that assists people in protocols for cleaning, draining, and drying their watercraft before they transfer it from one water body to another. That includes all your gear, all your equipment, and this prevents the introduction of invasive species through plant fragments, microscopic organisms in water or on watercraft. Through this program, we also operate a mobile decontamination unit, and we visit derbies, public boat launches, and events all summer long to decontaminate watercraft and prevent the spread of invasive species. Our goal is actually to have a permanent place at the Nova Scotia-New Brunswick border where we can prevent things like zebra mussels from entering Nova Scotia. There are very few pinch points in Nova Scotia, and if we can set up at the border, we can prevent some introductions. Another program is the Play Clean Go program, and that's more targeted towards terrestrial movement of invasives. So this program advises people on how to keep invasive species from spreading through recreational vehicles or pets or hiking boots. So things that you might not normally think of as being capable of spreading invasive species through transferring seeds, transferring soil that has seeds, or transferring plant fragments on bicycles or ATVs, that kind of thing. So that's another program that we promote. We have the Buy Local program, which encourages people to buy their firewood locally and not to transfer it around areas. And the reason for not doing that is to prevent the introduction of invasive pests, which often make their way from one area to another on firewood. So we encourage people not to transfer wood. And there are parks across the province. You can't take firewood into the park, and you can't take it out of the park. So that's an initiative that's inspired by this thought process. The Don't Let It Loose program actually has two parts to it. One part is angler targeted, so not releasing bait or live organisms or into water bodies or transferring fish from one water body to another so that you don't introduce invasive species. Another targeted audience of this program is pet and aquarium owners. So we often see that people will take their aquarium contents and take it to a nearby lake or pond and let it loose. And as a result of that, you often have species that would not normally be in that area being introduced into a water body. An example in Halifax would be a pond that has been completely overtaken by yellow floating heart, which was a garden ornamental escape. It has cost the municipality hundreds of thousands of dollars of control efforts, and we're just finally getting a handle on it now. So the last program is the Plant-Wise program. That is a program that encourages people to use native plants when they're planting. We actually have a Grow Me Instead guide that we have produced that encourages people to plant native and shows them what they can plant instead of the invasive species. So if you're interested in this particular tree, but it's invasive, you can grow this instead. So that's a quick overview of our programs. There's a picture of our decon unit. A picture of an anchor with, our propeller with lots of zebra mussels on it. There's a 50-pound goldfish. They can reach actually up to 67 pounds in the wild. This picture above is a picture of a pond in Halifax that's covered with Carolina fanwort that was released from an aquarium. So it's actually pretty much degraded that whole pond. Thankfully, it's at the end of a watershed area where it drains directly into the Halifax Harbor. So we haven't seen spread of this, but it's always a concern. This shows some of the plants that can be spread on your boots or on your pet. And this is a boot brush station that's used to clean your boots before you enter a trail. So we do help with people getting those set up in recreational trails to prevent the spread of invasives. And there is our emerald ash borer, which is an invasive beetle that actually impacts ash trees in Nova Scotia. And if you listen to the news, you probably hear of its spread across the province and places where it does kill ash trees, which is an actual shame because those trees are already threatened. I forgot to mention that we do promote how to control or how to dispose of unwanted plants. So that's another element of the plan, boys. And so one of the things that we do is we provide signage to partners and municipalities, depending on what their focus is. So we'll provide signage to remind people to clean, drain, dry their watercraft, often at boat launches or parks. We also have Play Clean Go signage, so at the entrance of trails we can install this signage that shows people how to clean their boots and what plants they're trying to prevent the spread for. So we can target certain species. And we do have a lot of signage. We have signage in Cotw National Park and Cape Breton Highlands National Park. Lots of other ENGOs have purchased signage for the areas that they're focusing stewardship and conservation initiatives in.
All right, and so we also have a lot of outreach materials. This includes guidebooks, like Sherry mentioned, the Grow Means Dead guidebook, but also the invasive species, which is a bit more general, talking about a bunch of problematic invasive species in the province. Stickers are also as part of our outreach program that includes focusing on those different programs to act as these behavior change reminders. And we also as well do a lot of workshops and presentations. In the past, we've worked with other municipalities providing training on how to identify invasive plant species, the park staff or public works, those who are actively out and about looking or around these invasive species. We also have done more general presentations to the general public, talk about key invasive species of that area, ones to keep an eye on for, how to control them, how to report them, that kinds of things. And we also do more hands-on activities such as guided walks where we show invasive species in a park or trail systems, showing how to identify them, showing those key characteristics and those kinds of things. Then we also do invasive species work plans. So these are detailed documents on invasive species occurrences in the county and recommendations. There's a lot of invasive species in the province, and it can be challenging knowing which ones to tackle or which ones are particularly problematic. One of the species that began this whole discussion and why we were invited here was multiflora rose, which is very abundant in Nova Scotia, especially in the valley area. And this map here is just kind of like a snippet of some things that we can do. This is taking data from iNaturalist, which is a citizen science tool to report observations of invasive species. And we can take that data, figure out where there's key areas of where invasive species are present, and give suggestions for controlling the species in those areas. We also as well do on-the-ground surveying efforts too, so we don't just rely on citizen science data, but we also do our own surveying efforts too. So, I'd like to say thank you for listening to us talk about invasive species and kind of what our organization's about. And if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer.
Thank you very much for that presentation. I know that there are counselors that certainly will want to say something or ask questions. We start with you, Councillor Hare. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just curious, do you do much, do you have much connections to the province? Do any consulting with them regarding, I don't know, policy? Because what bothers me the most is we just got our William Dan seed catalog in the mail, and you can find all throughout the catalog some of these invasive species that you have explained to us right in the catalog. So has there ever been any consulting with the province on implementing policy to prevent that from happening?
So we work with the province on a few different levels. We haven't worked in regards to exactly the policy aspect. One being a big factor of capacity, engaging those policy discussions. Our focus primarily is that bottom-up approach, so creating that awareness of invasive species to shift away from that demand. But yeah, we haven't yet, but at the provincial level, I know at the national level with Invasive Canada has been doing a bit more of that policy work.
Right on. And I just see one of the slides, is burdock considered an invasive species? Really?
So yeah, so it's a species that's not native to our area, and it can be problematic in terms of taking over areas. You can actually see some areas where it does outcompete the native vegetation, and it's a great example of the ones that just stick right on here.
And would lupins also be considered invasive around here?
Yes. So lupins are actually native to BC. They were introduced here, and they are considered invasive because they can take over areas, but specifically the large leaf lupin, which is the one that you see most of the time on the side of highways.
Is there any efforts for that right now with the lupins?
So with that species, at this point, it's not the worst species out there. It's not really having that significant ecological impact. There's a lot more, like in terms of list of impacts, it's a little bit lower compared to other species. But our main goal with that is preventing spread, so preventing the intentional plantings of lupin.
As one of the things I see in William Dan seed catalogs, all the catalogs is lupins, and it always bothers me.
You better write to them. Anybody else would like to ask questions? I didn't know about the lupin things. I know lupins have always been something that your parents had, your grandparents had, da-da-da. Any other questions? Councillor Welsh?
Thank you so much for coming down and doing the presentation. It did come from the multiflora rose inquiry from residents and from some knotweed in the area too. And a lot of it comes from handling maybe at a highways level or a county level in how we transport or clean up sites. So we're almost, when we're doing ditching or something and we're moving equipment, I don't know whether or not we have an internal policy that would, or staff training that would look at something like that. So if we're moving equipment, like if we mow a lawn somewhere and we move equipment, just to be able to identify perhaps some of the species that are on site, so we're not transporting it from a county perspective. So, and also I love the idea of coming down and getting some training and some signage in the area just to help the residents know the type of invasive species to be looking at, whether it's at our boat launches or our, like on this trail or anything like that, just to inform the public so they know exactly what they're looking at. So, thank you so much for coming and doing this.
Yeah, the signing would educate a lot of our public. Councillor Longmire and Councillor Oxner.
Thank you so much, Houston and Sherry. This was wonderful information. Some of it I've heard before, and lupins, I've now learned something new. So I won't be in the ditch grabbing those and seeding my property. But anyway, they are a pretty flower, however. I'm just wondering about distribution of resources. Do you provide any kind of printed information that we could take around to our halls, that, like posters and things like that, pamphlets or anything that could help as well. I think it's valuable information, and I think it should be spread far and wide, no matter the pun, right?
We actually have probably some type of resource for every program and numerous fact sheets on invasive species. And as a matter of fact, if you visit our website at nsinvasives.ca, you can access a printable version of our Nova Scotia Invasive Species Guide and Growing Instead Guide. You can also purchase the books on our web store. But we do have resources, and there are some in this area because we tend to work with the Clean Annapolis River Project a lot and other NGOs, and we distribute our resources. But we would be happy to put a package together if you're interested and send down some resources.
Very much so. I think about those who don't actually have access to internet, and so it's always valuable to have some printable resources, and of course at the halls it's a great place to refer them to, right? Do you go into schools?
We have done a few schools presentations. We actually have an active one in Kentville with the grade 7 class there, where every year we go provide presentations on identifying invasive species. Then we go actually out to one of the parks, go for a walk, kind of show them around. Then we actually do a removal of goutweed in the park. So we do a few different presentations in schools as well.
Wonderful to hear. Thank you. Thank you.
Excellent. Councillor Oxner.
Looking at your slides, slide 10, public awareness typically begins at the point where eradication is unlikely. So I think we need to do a better job with education and enlightening people on these challenges. And I think our recreation department plays a key role in that, because it's too late by the time the public is educated. So I think we need to do better earlier. And that's it for me. I'm going to make that observation.
Thank you. Any other councillors? Yes, Councillor Ferguson.
I didn't see the black leg tick on there.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, but just thinking about it. I guess it's gonna stay there.
Yeah.
To be a pest. Okay. Anybody else? Councillor Welsh?
One more quick one. Do you do any work with the inoculation of the hemlocks or the introduction of the beetle that they're looking at bringing in to help deal with the woolly elk? I forget, how do you say that, the woolly elk again?
The delegate. I'm not fully delegate, yeah. So we haven't at the present moment of being out and actually inoculating the trees with the pesticide, but we do a lot of outreach in regards to the hemlock woolly delegate in Nova Scotia. So we've done workshops where we invite the public to attend. We usually invite partners that are actively involved with those management activities to kind of create those interactions, right, and provide the information out on hand on activities like showing how to identify the hemlock tree species to begin with, but also how to look for signs for HWA. Yeah.
Great. Okay, no other questions? Thank you so much for coming in and presenting to us, and I'm just saddened to hear about my lupins. It is what it is. But in any case, it's nice to know that, the information you didn't know you now have. So thanks a lot, and bring us some more information if you have, and we'll be welcoming information that you send on to us, and we'll share amongst the councilors.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, we're going back to where we left off, on page 63. And I think, you don't know where I'm at. Am I at Councillor Welsh?
It's Longmire, myself, and Walsh.
I was arguing too, I think.
No, I have Connell, Welsh, Harding, Deputy Warden, Air,
We all have them.
and Longmire. There's my list. So, Counselor Welsh, you're up.
Just a quick question regarding funding requests. Are we anticipating any further increases in the near term as far as costs associated with Valley Waste? Is there anything that's going to come out of, that's going to surprise us that we should know about?
Not this year, I mean, this is the budget, so, I mean.
It is what it is
Yeah.
for now. Thanks.
Yeah, we're good. We don't know
Yeah, we don't
what
know
comes
we don't know
after,
yet.
what we have to deal with, I guess, for use of better words. Counselor Harding?
Yeah, just a question. I see that we're due, or that we're seeing a reduction of approximately 230,000 because of the EPR program, extended producer responsibility. And then I see on page 66, their upcoming objectives in the annual objectives is to fully implement the extended producer responsibility. So I'm just wondering, do we expect to see any more savings coming from that program, or is this going to be fairly standard?
Through you, Warden, to
Yes.
Counselor, so it started last year, the full implementation will be this year, which is why there's that more savings.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Always looking for savings. Deputy Warden?
Thank you. The only thing, it's more of a question. The Morristown transfer site, I've recently used it, and I've noticed that their second scale entry, they have no interest in repairing that. And I asked that question when I went through, because you go through the normal side, get in, you say what you have, and then when you are leaving the disposal site, you have to go on the opposite side of the road to get onto the scale, to then get out of your truck or car, walk around your car, to then pay for your services. And I asked if there was any plan to make that second scale operational like it used to be. And I was told that there is absolutely no plan to replace or upgrade that scale. And it's more of a question that, can we pass that up to Valley Waste? Because I see it more than just an inconvenience. I see it a bit of a safety issue because they had to build this wooden boardwalk that goes actually over the road. So you're getting out and they don't salt it. And then you're walking into the road to then go to them. I just think of some of our elderly people or people that have mobility issues. Yeah, are they able to look at that, or is there actual plan? Or can they officially come out and say, we're not fixing it?
I never heard it even work. No, it's another question that can be asked.
Thank you.
Perfect. Next will be Counselor Hare.
Who is, what is our representation with Valley Waste right now? Who, what, how many people?
Who sits under?
Yeah, so just.
All the wardens and
Yeah,
mayors.
the warden, okay. So I guess my comment again is going back to the wood chips. I can't believe it, I skimmed over it until Councilor Cotw mentioned it. So this $150,000, $57,000, do they, this is an estimate, or do they have a contract?
I'm not sure, Councilor Hare, we can get that.
Because everything looks good on paper, but being in the wood industry, we have looked into chipping wood that is clean, no nails, off the saw, heavy, so it weighs more, so you need less of it. And if I recall correctly, I think it was $50 a ton is what we were offered, and we had to meet a certain set of conditions of storage on our own site to be able to actually send it off to anybody to use. And it was fairly stringent, like you couldn't just leave it on the ground and then be away with it. It had to be on a cement pad, covered over, and so on and so forth, and it had to be clean. There couldn't be, like plastics or debris or garbage in it. And so when I see $150,000, I think, well, if this was me trying to make $157,000 off of wood chips, I would have to sell gross. This isn't even profit, because I still have to pay trucking, which is extremely high. 3,140 tons of wood chips. So that would be the same thing as me taking 80 tractor trailer loads, full-blown tractor trailer loads of logs, and just running it through the chipper. So I guess my comment comes down to is I find this, I haven't seen the operation that got down there, but it's just, we're looking at this photo and they're grinding up pallets. I don't know who's buying that, because I don't think people burning it for heat or power would take it with the metal debris, with paint, so on and so forth. So I don't see the sale and I don't see the revenue. So one, I wanna know if this was a worthwhile investment, because when we talk about investments and capital purchases, King Transit, the same applies to this, it's worthwhile investments and purchases. I don't see the money, maybe I'm wrong, I hope I'm wrong, that'd be great if we could take our wood scraps and process it and make money, but I don't see it at all. I see this as, so I guess it would be nice if we could give some direction to a representative to nitpick kind of this chipper, because what I see is if we have budgeted $150,000 of wood chip sales into the budget, we're gonna be over budget by a lot if that doesn't come to fruition. And if $150,000 is the profit, then if I could see it being even a bigger loss than $150,000 if we can't move this wood chip. So hopefully I'm wrong, but I would like to see some direction that this is nitpicked and looked after accordingly, you know, to the extent that if we find out this isn't feasible, then we need to get rid of it. It's, I'll leave it at that.
My understanding was that they did have a wood chip stream, but I will check into it again.
Yep. If I do have a supplier, a buyer, let me know who it is, 'cause
You can't get into it, you're on your own. You're on your own. Councilor Longmire.
Thank you. So this is just strictly on governance. So I noted that this document, of course, is signed for February 3rd. Committee of the Whole is today, February 10th. Of course, the board approved this in January. So I guess it kind of piggybacks on some questions that have come up in the room from Councillor Cotw and Councillor Hare. You know, we are the councillors, and while this comes to us as information only, I'm curious as how this, you know, how is council's oversight role being exercised when it's already been board approved and it's coming to us today? Because I do think there are some questions that probably would have been better asked earlier than now kind of scrutinizing this document.
Well, we do, I'm going to speak for the chair. We do have oversight because we also have the CAO who sits on the board itself, they're discussing it. So it's not just one step, it's a two-step approach and the discussion is had. Of course, we have signed us into being a partner. So from that point on, we need to have some realistic goals, we do, that we have to work on, and the CAO is certainly there for our benefit and look what's best for us. And I can tell you right now, this one is fine. Like, we're making money on it as far as that goes, and hopefully in the future it's going to be even better, because they're looking and searching for different directions to make money. But we can't see in the future.
Yes.
We can only see what we see now.
And this was really about clarifying it for the public.
Yes.
Yes, thank you for that.
And CAO, if you
Yes,
could.
thank you.
to
I'd
add.
just like to add to that because, so it was this last year that this council agreed to enter into the IMSA.
Yeah.
The IMSA is what basically we've agreed to. Valley Waste and Tidal Transit report to the IMSA. And the IMSA is made up of the mayor's wardens of all the participating municipal units. So it's that group that decides what happens at these two organizations. So absolutely, we can have feedback, we can have input, but at the end of the day, the IMSA dictates how that happens. And even though Annapolis County is fairly large, we pale in comparison to Kings County, who basically gets to make the decision. We are a part of this organization, and if we want the service, which I say we absolutely do, then, you know, there's some things that we will not have as much input on as some of you would probably like to.
And I really appreciate that response. I know it matters to the public. Thank you.
Which is what it is, yes. Okay, do we have any other comments or questions? Seeing none? Here we go. All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no? Motion passed. Okay, let's move along to the next one, which is
Skip anyone.
7.9, page 98. Okay. All right. This is a report that has been brought in because we have a change. I will let the CAO start with an explanation before we put the two recommendation on the floor. Oh, I guess I'll let Becca speak. Sorry, madame. Go ahead, Madame Ryan.
Just a quick overview. As you know, in December, we had the opportunity to acquire a piece of property that we wanted from a private owner. And with the understanding that there would be two lots created and we would get the middle lot. In looking at our partners in the survey world, we can't create a lot 3. So because there's too much wetland where the delineation occurs from the brook and the actual lake itself, so therefore we went back to the owner and essentially basically said that he'll accept the lot 1 and he'll donate the remaining lands, which will include wetland, a substantial amount of wetland to this property, to the municipality of Annapolis County. So it's still very much a thanks.
Okay. Yeah, any comments or questions to add? Yes, Catherine.
I'm just curious if, the acreage on that again was
6.1 total,
6.1 between the two lots?
to the total lot.
To
To the
the
total
now
land
total?
mass. We didn't calculate how much he's getting and how much we'll get. We won't know exactly until the survey's done. We didn't want to go to that stage until you approve this.
So I'm just curious on,
But it will be additional land.
yes. So the portion of lot 3, so there's some wetland delineation now. Will it be usable in some sort of respect? Will we be able to do something with it? Instead of just being, I don't want it to be necessarily a burden, like lot 2 sounds like you're gonna use well. So I'm just curious on lot 3, if there's a portion of it at the very least that we'll be able to utilize in, I don't know, a footpath or something, just something so it's not a burden.
We're definitely interested in the parcel that provides the existing boat, the
Yes.
little canoe access point. Then what happens if you're heading south, you get pretty much wetland, and you're walking along the road, probably about 400 meters. There would be perhaps, a place where you could put a picnic table, but it would be walking distance. But highways did not like the idea of creating shall we say, a road into there either. So that was another issue. It's not that they said that they wouldn't, but when we found out that it was very much wetlands in that area, and you couldn't create a lot, there's no sense of that. Because they did not approve the first driveway proposal, so. And then we did go to the second one because we realized the wetlands extend quite, what happened is the brook is a lot closer than what was originally on the original map, so when they went out and actually looked at where it was all located and the various different distance where they're allowed to go, there was no room. So you can't get a building lot, could you get somebody to walk along the road and up to maybe a picnic table if they wanted? Yes, there would be that opportunity.
That's great, so I'm still in favor for it all, I guess it's just regarding going in the future, I wouldn't want us, as a municipality, taking on wetlands in Marseille, like vast amounts, so, no, that's it.
Perfect. Any other statements or questions? Oh, Councillor Connell.
Make the same statement I made before. It's a great opportunity. I agree with it 100%. I just don't like the word donation. $13,000 of taxpayers' money is being spent for it. Are we getting a good deal? Absolutely. But it should not be promoted as a donation. It should be a purchase that we're doing for land. It's not free.
Okay, thank you very much. And Deputy Warden and Councillor Hagenbar.
I don't have a question, I was just offering to read the motion.
Huh, well, not yet.
Just leave
Councillor
her alone.
Hagenbar?
Just a suggestion,
Yes.
according to go along with what Councillor Connell was saying.
Oh, no,
Maybe it could be amended to, and I'm not,
well, we're not there yet. The motion's not on court. It's if you have a question for, about the property itself, for now. Just hold on.
no, I don't,
Okay.
but I might have an
We
amendment.
got, no other questions?
Just, try to.
To Ms. Ryan,
Sure,
about the
yes.
property.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So, I can see why people are hung up on that word donation, but we really shouldn't be. It is a gift. And yes, there will always be costs associated with the next steps, but I think it's a very valuable gift, and so I'm not troubled by the word donation.
Okay, good. Okay,
It is a normal process when you negotiate, and it's also, a point is that subject to the donation, we do issue an income tax receipt, so it all works together. So if you were to make a change, it makes it very difficult for us to follow through on this project.
okay. Councillor Harding, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanna, it says that the cost would probably be less than 13,000 as we're only gonna be surveying the one lot, so any rough idea?
No, I didn't ask.
Yeah, okay.
Perhaps I should have, but I didn't.
Thank you.
Okay,
It's a great opportunity.
all right. Deputy Warden, could you read the first recommendation? Motion.
I move to rescind this motion made at December 16th, 2025 council meeting that read, I move that municipal council approve the donation of the property located at Monroe Lake, Annapolis County as a future public park and access to the lake, contingent on the ability to create 2 approved lots located north and south of the donated property.
Okay, seconder. Councillor Longmire. Any questions on this motion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passed. Second motion.
I move that municipal council approve the donation of property located at Monroe Lake, Annapolis County as a future public park and access to the lake, as described within this request for decision.
Seconder. Councillor Harding. There's no bad names coming to my head, it's just Niall, and I know I can't say that, sorry. You're Niall. Anyway, Councillor Harding. Okay, any comments or questions about this motion? Councillor Welsh.
Just a comment, I wrote it, so I'm just gonna read it verbatim here, hopefully verbatim. I see this as a good example of the county taking a careful, measured approach to land acquisition. I think the revised proposal reflects solid due diligence, reduces risks, and protects a natural asset that would be very difficult to replace in the future. More broadly, this is a quality of life investment. Protecting shared natural assets like this support long-term community well-being and aligns well with our broader planning and environmental goals. It also strengthens opportunities for public access and low-impact recreation, which we constantly hear our residents value, particularly in rural areas where this kind of shared space matters a great deal. Finally, there is a future-proofing aspect here. Once land like this is developed or fragmented, it is effectively lost. By securing it now, the county is preserving options for future generations rather than closing them off. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, any other comments or questions?
Right here.
Councillor Aguilar.
First, I have a question. I didn't hear everything you said regarding using the word donation. Was there some, if that word was changed, is there some kind of implication that it wouldn't be good for the...
Yes, absolutely, because the whole intent of this is that they are gonna create a donation to the county for a certain amount of money, and we will get, that we will go through the natural process of working with, appraisal, and then we issue an income tax receipt for the value of that property. So yes, you need to have the word donation in there.
So the benefit to the tax receipt is for the vendor,
It is,
not us.
yes. We've done this before.
And was that a big contingency upon that
Yes.
individual actually doing this in the first place?
Yep. It's usually
So that
stand-
could have a detrimental effect if that were
Oh,
to change.
it will.
Okay,
Definitely.
then I rest my case.
So you're done? Is that what
Oh,
you mean?
no, that's
Okay,
extremely
you're done.
important.
Okay. So, Councillor Longmire?
Thank you, just a quick comment. I just want to say thank you to Councillor Welsh for those beautiful words that he just expressed on this matter. Very heartfelt, thank you.
Keep it up. Okay, so, any other, Councillor Connell.
And I also applaud Councillor Wells on the acquisition of this property. Because I just wanted to be clear to taxpayers that we are spending some of their taxpayers' money to acquire this property. And also, other people out there may have the same opportunity to let us know they have parcels of land or on a lake or on a river that they would like to see acquired by the county. But my point is I'm 100% for it, but my point is, it is not free.
Yeah, perfect. Are you volunteering land? Is that somewhere, Councillor? No, I guess not, he gave me the eye. Not
But he did
volunteering.
income tax receipts and pay him money.
I opened up something there. Okay, Councillor Cranston.
Just for the benefit of people listening, it is an acquisition cost, so as it's been pointed out, it's not free to the taxpayer, $13,000. But those are not purchase costs or acquisition costs, so you do incur acquisition costs when you receive a donation. So it's important that it stays as a donation, which at this point I don't think nobody's disputing, but the difference, what's important to clarify that is the person donating the property is not receiving $13,000 for the property. They're donating it, and the $13,000 is an acquisition cost of acquiring the donation. So yes, it's not free, but it is very much a donation from the donor.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. John, any other words? I mean, Councillor Wells? Jeez, I'm bad this morning. Okay, let's go to, all in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passed. Okay, now, no, there's nothing under new business, and we need a motion to go in camera under section 22(2)E, 22(2)G, and 22(2)C, which is contract, legal advice, and personnel matters. Phew. Councillor Longmire, and seconder for that motion, Councillor Parsons Osmond. All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passed.